Talktainment Radio Worldwide South. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
All righty. Good day to everyone. This is Wednesday, the 10th of October, 2018. Today's show will be an hour due to some discrepancies that we have working out. And you are listening to TalkTainmentRadio.com, the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., and this is radio the way it should be heard. We are going to get right into the program. Let me introduce to some and present to others Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., and as we always say, Mr. Fuller, good morning, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
Okay. I have a lot of people that ask me about that list, a list of movies. We are on 37 through 40, which would be the complete list. And then on next week's program, I will just go over and read the entire list. So do you have four more that we can close this portion out?
What was that last one we had?
The last one we had was 12 Angry Men. That was number 36.
12 Angry Men?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we already have Nothing But a Man. I have a couple of lists here, and it might not be in that order. Do I have The Hustler?
No, I don't have that down here. Is that the one with Jackie Gleason?
No, yes, Jackie Gleason.
Okay, let me put that down, The Hustler.
I definitely want that one.
Okay, that's in there. Okay, number 30.
Paul Newman and Jackie Gleason.
Yeah, okay. And number 38?
The Straight Story.
Straight Story. Okay, wait a minute.
About a person named Alvin Straight.
Oh.
That was his name.
Okay, and...
Not a lot of lessons in there, but there are a few substantial ones.
Okay, number...
Kind of a bad movie, kind of boring to most people.
Okay,
The Straight Story.
Number 39?
The Trip to Bountiful.
Trip the Bountiful.
The Trip to Bountiful. It stars Geraldine Page. She's a white lady. There was a remake of it with Cicely Tyson, but I would recommend the one with Geraldine Page.
Okay, let me get that. That was The Trip to Bountiful, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And number 40.
Picnic.
Ooh.
Tim Novak and William Holden.
Okay, Picnic. Okay, that's 40.
I would call Mid-America.
Now, what I'm going to do is next week, because I was asked to do it this week, is to go over the complete list one more time. But because of the shortage of time, I'm not going to do it this week. But next week, hopefully, I can, if there's no more discrepancies, I can go over the list. There are people who have written in, and I don't have time to do it today, of several other movies, but I'm sure that there are other movies or books that are out there that...
About 12 more, really.
Oh, yeah, about 12 more. Okay, well, we're not going to do that because that would make it 52. But, okay, now, today's subject is a very controversial one, but nevertheless, we want to get into it and get your thoughts on it. It's going to be, or it is, the emasculation and feminization of the black male in the system of white supremacy, racism. Just hearing the opening line of that discussion, Mr. Fuller, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a part of the white supremacist strategy. One of the major parts, sexual confusion, among non-white people. They want confusion at all times in all areas of activity. Confusion in economics, confusion in education, the educational system, where it applies to black people is an absolute mess. I mean, and most teachers will say they're having all kinds of problems. Well, these problems are designed, they're built in, regardless of what the problems are. White supremacists have figured out how to make these problems. I mean, problems of discipline, problems of the grading system, the whole thing, all right? So that's in education and entertainment. They've made sure that whatever black people are doing in entertainment, that there's nothing constructive that's going to be in there. Nothing that black people can use that's inspirational in a constructive manner. They're steering all the entertainment in that direction. And they're having mostly just something that's just complete chaos, or something that doesn't have any depth or any value to it. You can't get much out of it. Just a whole bunch of people running around doing stuff, but nothing inspirational in the entertainment field that would cause a black person to think seriously about serious things. So they're spending, it doesn't make any difference how much money, they don't care about the money. They'll spend any amount of money, to have confusion in that particular area of activity. And then, of course, in labor, law, politics, nothing but confusion. Nobody knows who to vote for, or which way to go, or whether to vote at all, or whether to participate, or just general politics, which is how people interact with each other each day. Make sure that there's confusion and then animosity there in all contacts. Anything, times you got black people around, you got a lot of confusion and you got a lot of hostility. All right? That's all. Confusion and hostility in politics. The way people interact with each other every day. And then religion, of course, always. Mass confusion. People going at each other. People looking to kill each other in the field of religion. Or just have endless arguments that go nowhere. Nothing settled. Nothing constructive is ever supposed to happen. Just mass misery and confusion in the field of religion for everybody who is of color. And, of course, the eighth area of activity, sex. Because the racists know that sexual motivation is the strongest motivation other than the system of white supremacy itself among the people of the entire planet. Everybody's walking around thinking about something sexual, or engaging in something sexual, or planning on something sexual, one way or another, all the time, or reminiscing about something sexual. If they're no longer sexually active, they're reminiscing. These are important parts of a person's existence. So the white supremacists are making sure that everything that has to do with sex is going to be mass confusion when it comes to people of color. Scatterization of sexual categories and whatnot.
Now, what do you mean by that? Is that when they have? I think you mentioned there were 21, 22, or 23 categories of this sexual thing. Used to be male, female, now it's transgender or whatever term that they have out there.
Oh, they might. Yeah, you're right. They might go to whole alphabet. They'll dream up things that will fit the alphabets. They'll just do that. They'll just say, "Hey, we won't start with L. Well, let's go back to A." You think that'll work? They just like people just in an experimental lab, just trying to see whatever will work, whatever will just cause as much confusion as you possibly can. So they might just at some point just say, we're not going to start with L. They'll have meetings on it, like I'm sure they do. They have to have, in order for all this stuff to be happening. See, this is planned. This is planned. This is orchestrated.
Yes.
Well thought out. See, so they might say, hey, dude, we don't have anything for A and B, and well, we do have something for B, bisexual. Say, come up with something for C. Maybe 24 things for C. And then for D. And then for the whole English alphabet. All right? All the letters. Right on up to Z. Zebrasexual. I mean, well, what is that? Well, they'll come up with some fancy definition for it and say, hey, for you black people, I mean, this is perfect. I mean, this is a perfect sexual category for you all. I mean, you need to be going out and spreading this in your schools and your churches and in all your institutions and say that, hey, this is all in the name of you black people love freedom, all right? So these are all expressions of your newfound sexual freedom. You're going to have maybe about 50 categories now, just like they have many categories of race.
Yes.
It used to be black, white, mulatto in 1860. Now they got about 21 categories, 22 categories of racial classifications. So they do the same thing with the sexual classifications. What sexual classification for you? It used to be that old stuff, this male, female. And we don't want that no more. I mean, that's not for you all. You all are very creative people. You got to be more creative in your sexuality. And they wink at each other when they do that. And we go right along with it. Because what else do we know except what they tell us?
Right.
We don't come up with anything on our own as of any constructive value. And when somebody shows any signs of coming up with something on our own that is definitely constructive, they squash it.
Mm-hmm.
So you get suspicious of anything that comes down the pipe. If you're black, if you're a person of color, black, brown, red, yellow, anywhere on the planet, anytime somebody comes up with something new and they say it's just right for black people or people of color, black, brown, red, yellow, tan, beige, be suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, jump back. Don't jump forward right into it. Jump back and say, wait a minute, what is this?
Yeah, examine it.
What is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what are you doing now? Because you're always up to something. Now, you're bringing me something else that I haven't had, all right? And you got it all printed up and making it look like it's something that really, I mean, is just beautiful and wondrous and going to do all kinds of things for the future of black people coming out of all this oppression and whatnot. I mean, and you say it's going to greatly enhance our intelligence and all this. I don't believe it.
Right. Okay, now.
That's the position you should take.
Okay, now, in reference to our topic today, I always want to call it emancipation, but it's not emancipation, but the emasculation of the black male and the feminization of the black male. In your mind, as you see things with your experience, what do you see going on? What images do you see that perpetuate that subject, emasculation of the black man?
Any movie that you look at, anything you turn on TV anywhere, all right? A black male is supposed to be, a eunuch. I mean, that's basically what they're working up to. The black male, I mean, he's just strutting around with a whole bunch of tattoos and muscles and all like that, and hair all over his head and whatnot, different types. I mean, and, later on they're going to make it purple and green and stack it up like they used to do the eunuchs in the Roman castles. Put some golden slippers on him. I mean, these are frivolous people. I mean, these are a bunch of clowns. I mean, dress them up like clowns, all right? Tell them that hey, now you look attractive, all right? Now you got it going on, okay? But make him look like a circus clown, all right? And then take all this masculinity away from him, all right? And then turn him loose among the females, because he's no threat to females now. I mean, this is why you see all these rape reports about black people now, more and more. They got a lot of white people that they're charging with rape now, but they're going to make sure that, hey, I mean, the inspiration for rape is the black male, all right?
That's true.
So every black male, I mean, is deadly. I mean, if he's a masculine black male, he's a rapist. Every black male who likes females is a rapist by definition. So now if he doesn't like females, all right, if he doesn't like anything at all, I mean, in other words, he doesn't have any sex organs or anything, now he's a wonderful fella. I mean, you know, put some fancy bones through his nose and, you know, earrings hanging down to the floor and a big turban on his head. See, they love to be looking glitzy and whatnot.
So,
old-fashioned pimps and whatnot.
So,
put some golden shoes on his feet, all right, but don't give him any sexuality at all.
Okay.
Just have him twitching around, I mean, just
right.
Like some kind of thing.
Right.
That's all it becomes.
So by doing that, would that mean, or could be interpreted that they consider the black man a threat, so they have to eliminate that threat by emasculating him and making him into a woman or more feminine?
Oh, sure. Right. See, they intend for every black male to eventually be chasing around looking for a white man's rear end. Okay? Ultimately. That's the ultimate thing. I mean, that for the future generations, this will be the goal in life. No other goal other than that. Just run around, you know, that's what the black male will be known for. He won't be known for nothing else. That's it. I mean, that would be his identification. That would be our identification as black males all over the world.
Why do they consider the
wake up in the morning and go to bed at night thinking about the white male anus? That's it.
Wow.
So they're going to take a roundabout way of doing it, but that's where it's all aimed to go.
Why do they consider
all the black male? Because then, once you get us in that mode, they don't have to do anything else as far as, you know, jobs, and I'll give you any kind of job. I mean, who cares? I mean, you know, you can be president of anything. You can have any kind of fancy title as long as you are completely messed up sexually.
Okay. Now,
you don't know what you are.
in your years of viewing life, watching, writing, you know, recording this, why is the black male such a threat to the system of white supremacy racism?
Because that's why they used to hang black males, and what they used to do when they would hang them, they would cut off their private parts, put them in mason jars, sometimes put them up on the mantelpiece, as trophies, just like they do when they kill a bear.
Yes.
Put the deer's head up over the mantelpiece. They used to put, back when they had a lot of fireplaces and whatnot, and they had met a black person, they'd cut off his private part.
Yes.
Up in a mason jar.
Yes.
Sit it on the mantelpiece, right alongside of the other trophies. I mean, the animals that they kill. All right? That would be the symbol. And they'd burn the rest of the body. All right? Or throw it into the river or whatever.
Okay. Let me ask this.
The black male was always a threat to what? The reproduction of white people. Okay?
Is that what it is? The reproduction, the threat?
That's the root of it.
Okay.
Black male. See, in other words, when a white woman has a baby by a black male, that baby is no longer white. Every now and then they'll come up with, you know, but it's not reliable at all. A black male with a white woman is going to have what you call a non-white baby. Okay? That's just the genetics. That's just the way it works. So they have always had that animosity toward the black male sexual organs. Okay? And of course, they are making the black female into a female eunuch. All right? They are making her more and more masculine, but without the masculine equipment. So black females are now beginning to swagger around. I mean, they already are taking care of everything, including the black males. I mean, the black males just have turned into a baby. I mean, you know, and That's why, like Dr. Francis Cress Welsing said, the black male calls traditionally the black female mama. She's always mama.
Yeah.
Yeah, his wife is his mama. All right. Why? Because she's providing everything. She's the only one got a job. Okay.
Let me.
See, the black female is going to become the man and the woman. She's going to be bi.
Wow.
All right. She's going to be it all. Okay. And the black male is just going to be somebody that you standing around looking like an ornament, looking like a statue.
Wow.
He ain't worth nothing. He ain't worth nothing to nobody.
I hear you. TalkTimeAtRadio.com is
that's what they're aiming for.
TalkTimeAtRadio.com is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here is one I'm only going to share with you, and it's called All in the Family with S. Yolanda Robinson. It's a very good program, and you should check it out. All you have to do is go to the TalkTimeAtRadio.com homepage, and then click under programs, and then there you will see it, the date and the time, and a little bio about the host and the subjects that she discovers. That and all the other shows that are listed there for your convenience. All that from TalkTimeAtRadio.com, radio the way it should be heard. We are speaking with Neely Fuller Jr., and the day's subject, and it may go into next week, but today's subject is the emasculation and feminization of the black male in the system of white supremacy, racism. Mr. Fuller, as we discussed that, and you say now the black woman is becoming the male and female in the family structure?
Well, she's always been that, but the white supremacists see where that's the way it's going to go. The population, even though they're killing millions of black people all the time. I mean, disease, famine, war, dislocation, but they're not killing them fast enough. So they got to have a plan, or they can have us walking around all over the planet, but we'll just be a whole bunch of things. We're not even, considered to be people, because we're just about not considered to be people as it is now. But they're going to make it. The white supremacist plan is we are things, just like buffalo or a piece of furniture mostly, not even like an animal.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to even have animal status.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Definitely will come behind the dog. That's why some white people are calling, at this stage, black people dogs, calling us animals.
Yes,
monkeys,
yes.
Dogs. See, but in the future, we won't even have animal status.
Mm-hmm.
That's their plan.
Okay.
I mean, we're just some kind of things, like Walking Dead. What's that thing coming down the street?
Yes.
Look at it.
Yes.
Look at it. Throw rocks at it. I mean, that's a thing.
Okay.
I mean, that's not a person. That's not even an animal. I mean, we take care of our animals and all like that. You don't take care of that thing. That's a thing. Look at that black thing coming down the street. I mean, what is it? Oh, wow. I mean, is it a car? Is it a truck? Is it a ship? It's not a tree. What do you name it? It's no name for it. It's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing. Thing. Throw rocks at it.
Okay.
Chase it.
Okay. Now, in this emasculation and feminization of the black male, I've noticed the powerful use of imagery. And I was in a discussion about Bill Cosby and that last image of him in handcuffs, 80-something-year-old man in handcuffs, going off to prison. I think about O.J. Simpson, that image that they have of him. Serena Williams, or the Williams sisters. I was reading an article yesterday that they were testing them to see how much male factor that they have or had in them, or supposedly have in them. This system and this is ongoing imagery. What do you think about the use of the imagery that the white supremacists use to further degrade black men and women?
Everything that the white supremacists do is to degrade people of color. Everything. They don't do anything else. I mean, they burn midnight oil trying to figure out what the next step is going to be and what we'll go for, and we'll go for just about anything, and it's understandable because we don't have any plans for ourselves. I mean, they have always planned for us. So this, whatever they say is the newest thing, we just grab it, jump into it, because we're so starved for somebody to pay attention to us or tell us what to do, because we've never had anything, a plan of our own. So we always want somebody to tell us what to do, what to value, what the latest thing is, you know, what the latest pair of shoes is to kill somebody about, you know, where to go to have what we call a good time, what to eat, what not to eat, and see what I mean? So, you know, we just, they're making us at the status of what they say that we are at this state.
Okay.
Like
now,
the movie The Godfather, we are animals, but they're trying to go farther
yes,
and have us be animals. Because, see, they, you know, like they walk their dogs and all like that, they take care of their dogs. You know, in other words, they say preserve the animals. You go to jail for killing some animals now.
yes,
Even if you have a chicken fight, they'll put you in jail for having chickens fight each other, even though we eat chickens all the time. All right? But they are trying to make black people, particularly among all of the colors of people, the people that they classify as black, completely worthless. Not even worth anything to each other, which we're just about there now. All right? That's why we slaughter each other. We can't stand each other. Okay? Even though we do a lot of hugging and kissing, we're trying, but it doesn't take. See, it's all phony. We
yes,
know that.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, yeah.
No, black people don't value black people. We need to tell the truth about that.
So
everything tells us that it's nothing to value.
So it's important. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, the white supremacists are teaching us that. You know, they keep showing what? King Kong. What is King Kong? They should call us apes.
Yes.
Now, what did the ape, the most famous ape in white folklore, what is that about? The most famous ape is King Kong.
Yes.
If you think of an ape, you think of King Kong.
That's true.
What did King Kong do? Chasing a white woman.
Chasing a white woman.
Yeah, just tearing up everything, stepping on buildings, kicking over cars, whatnot. Hey, where's that white woman? I mean, y'all take away that. Ooh, King Kong. I mean, just tearing up cities.
Yeah, climbing buildings.
Right, and they keep making remakes of that movie. I mean, reinforcing that idea.
Chasing a white woman.
Every 5 years or so, they make, hey, gotta have another King Kong.
Wow. And we may have to take this after the break, but when did Neely Fuller become conscious of what was going on in terms of this white supremacy as a young man, you know, growing up and so forth? When did you become conscious of all this and the depth of how this nonsense goes?
Oh, the depth of it didn't come until about in the mid-1950s. But I was conscious of it because there was no way to escape it when I was coming up. I mean, there was the colored water, the drinking fountains, the restaurants. I was terrified when my progenitor sent me, what we call my father.
Yes.
Send me to the bank. I'd walk into that white bank and go out there to get some change for his business and get out of there as fast as I possibly could, trying to hide my color when I'd walk in, because I know all eyes are going to be on me.
Yes, sir.
And I know I might be in trouble before I get out of there. So I just meekly go up to the counter and whatnot. And everybody looking at me with total hostility. Everybody in there. What is that creature? What is that thing coming in here? I mean, you know, this is a nice, clean, you know, spotless place. I mean, you know, when you see something looks like that, you think about filth. You think about dirt. you think about something derogatory. I mean, you know, that little creature coming in here among us, all us freshly starched, clean, upright Christian white folks. I mean, you know, what is that creature doing coming in here? You know, thinking that they, you know, right. He comes through the front door of a bank, you know, and you black? Are you crazy? I mean, that's the way I came up.
Right.
All right.
So
you get it early back in those days.
Okay.
Like the 1960s, the mid 1950s, they started taking down the signs because they went into the refinement stage. Why?
Oh, yeah.
Because overseas, outside of the northwestern hemisphere, people, you know, from the Congo, South Africa and whatnot, the Mau Mau and all that. I mean, black people, Gandhi in India and whatnot, they were saying, hey, there's something wrong with this color scheme.
Okay. Got to leave it there. Mr. Fuller, we left off with you being conscious of what's going on, and you illustrated the how you went into banks and so forth. And, of course, you went into the service, and you saw the same type of setup even in there?
Oh, of course. I went to Korea, was in the combat zone for 10 months, and when I came back, now I went through training with white people, all right? 34th Medium Tank Battalion, Camp Chaffee, Arkansas. All right, 1951. Now, in March, that's when I went in. I went during all my training with mostly white people, all right? White soldiers. They sent me overseas. I was with the Brooklyn unit, mostly white, all right? Just very few black people, just maybe about 6 or 7 of us out of a unit of maybe of 100 people. Whole time I was in combat, in the combat zone, in the field artillery, up on the line. The whole time I was in Korea, because they sent us right to the front. We weren't in the rear area at all. I mean, they sent us right from training, and when I went overseas, they sent us straight to the front line, because they said we were replacements for the people who had already been killed, okay? We had to fill in those gaps. I was over there 10 months. I managed to make it back. As soon as I got back, they put me in the 2nd Field Artillery at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. That was an all-black unit. The 2 white sergeants that picked me up in the Jeep, they were smirking because they said, he thinks he's going to be a sergeant over white people, but he ain't. All right?
Wow.
Right. And they drove me straight to the 2nd Field, which was an all-black unit, one of the few that was still left, and put me in that. That's after I came back from overseas, fighting for, for the Koreans, South Koreans. They need their freedom. They need to be able to go where they want to and do what they want to and not be discriminated against and all like that. That's what I was sent over there for, to help them, to have their freedom from communism and all these other evil things that were going on in the world. And as soon as I got back, they let me know, you know what you are? You ain't no soldier. You ain't nothing. You ain't even, fit for nothing, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you are what you were when you left here. And all that freedom you fought for somebody over there, it ain't for you. Not you.
Mm-hmm.
Not with that color that you got.
I got you. With all the training and all that you have seen, and of course you have written the code book about this, and you mentioned in the previous half hour, and the word just stood out to me, taught or teach. Why is it hard for us as black people to realize that we have been taught, trained, if you will, I'm going to be Ebonic, teached, in this particular system that mistreats us badly? Why can't we believe that?
Because that's all we know. We don't have anything to compare with. I mean, we don't know anything about anything else.
But the code book explains what is going on.
But see, that's all fantasy.
What do you mean?
In other words, it's hard to get people out of the habits that they are used to.
Oh, okay.
We have ghetto habits. we have been trained to be ghetto people, and like you're trained, you're born in a prison.
Yes.
So you get to the place where you're institutionalized.
Okay.
That's why I keep mentioning that movie, Shawshank Redemption. Red kept saying, after a while, you get to the place you like those walls. All right? Yeah, you like your cell. If somebody comes and tells you to get out of your cell, you think they're crazy. You know, you like it where you are. And the average black person likes being in the hood. Okay? I mean, you know, it's like going back into the womb. See, hey, it's trying to grow up, trying to grow out, trying to become a universal person. Oh, no. I'm going to be a downtrodden Negro in the hood. Because my ancestors was that. All right? As far back as I can remember. My father was always locked up. My grandfather before him, locked up.
Locked up.
Beaten up. Right. Beaten up, going around, strutting around, trying to pretend to be a man, and beating up the black female and thinking that makes him a man. Okay? Knocking her down every Saturday night after he gets drunk from being mad all day and all week on his job, and come home and take it out on her. Face all over the kitchen and whatnot.
Is that
out of the house.
Is that why he renders us as being called a boy? Because we actually have perceived as no power whatsoever against that?
Absolutely, and we are in a boy's position. There's no such thing as a black man in the system of white supremacy, according to the evidence. Man means manager. We don't manage anything. We are managed. If you're a prisoner of war, you're not a man. All that's taken away from you. You're just a prisoner of war. And you do what the prison masters tell you to do. And when you have generations of nothing but that, you begin to like it. And don't want it to change, and get mad at anybody that does try to change it. Somebody try to pull you out of that cell, you'll fight them. This is my cell. This is my territory. This is my turf. You know? And what I'm good for in here in this prison is fighting other prisoners. And we do a lot of that.
And they trained you to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, oh yes. We are trained just to walk around. As soon as they let us in the prison yard, walk around in the prison yard looking for a fight. For a fight with whom? The prison masters? No. A fight with other prisoners. All right? That's what we look forward to. We're trained that way. You know, that's not by accident.
Well, that's... Whew, wow.
That's why we love to be somewhere where we can shoot at other black people. All right?
Well,
That's what our guns are for.
Or show off. I understand that now. That's why when we get a little space, we like to show off. You mentioned that before.
Yeah, boy, we. The minute the white supremacists say, "Well, I'm gonna give you creatures a little time off from me telling you what to do," all right? Because you don't know what to do if I'm not around, no way. So I'm gonna give you a little time off. The minute we get a few minutes off, we do what? Truth be told, chase around trying to find other black people. And when we find other black people, then we try to go at each other. All right? Don't make no difference how we start off. See, that's a sham. See, that all that thing about black love, that doesn't exist. We try to pretend that it exists. But see, we're not fooling the white supremacists. We're fooling ourselves about that.
I remember...
we talk about love more than anybody on the planet.
That's true.
There's no love in us at all.
That's true.
None.
Yeah.
Zero.
I remember as a child, when I would go to certain meetings, guys would drive up in these great big old Cadillacs, and everybody wanted to get a Cadillac. I could never figure out why that happened. So eventually I bought a Cadillac. I bought a Seville. And I remember this lady and this man said, "Okay, now you've made it." And I said, "Made what?" I could. What did I make? Because I bought a car, but I understood that car was a symbol that you have supposedly escalated to some, higher level or equal with, quote unquote, the man. I never thought that.
Black people have been highly trained by the white supremacists to think that the definition of success is doing anything that will get the attention of other black people. Because nobody else pays us any attention at all except to tell us to get out of the way. While they do things that really mean something.
Yeah.
Black people, please, black folks, get off the highway. Get out of the way.
Yeah.
Let somebody by who's going to be doing something like going to outer space and whatnot. Y'all don't know how to do nothing but walk around showing off and grinning to each other.
Showing off and, driving the cat. Yeah.
Grinning and showing off to each other.
A cat.
That's all you're good for.
A cat.
Get out of the way.
Yeah.
And let people with some sense run the world, if you please.
Let's do this. TalkTameAtRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTameAtRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablets. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. Now, wait a minute. We're getting ready to do something really important. We're getting ready to have Mr. Fuller talk about his book. If you don't have this book, I highly recommend that this be one of the books that you get and put on your table. And not only that, but also pick it up and read it. And I'll have Mr. Fuller explain it. Mr. Fuller, go ahead, please.
You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of a basic textbook and textbook for victims of white supremacy. If you're not a victim of white supremacy or you don't perceive yourself as being one, the book is not for you. But if you want to tell yourself the truth, if you're a person of color, you are subject to the system of white supremacy. But a lot of black people say, I'm not subject to anybody. I'm my own person. I do what I want to do. Nobody tells me what to do. All right? Now, if you believe that, keep believing that. All right? Go with your beliefs. The book doesn't try to indoctrinate anybody, but it makes suggestions to people who have decided what I say, because I decided it myself. I'm a victim of racism. I'm subject to the races. The white people, not all white people, but the white people who believe in white supremacy, I'm subject to their dictates each and every minute of each and every day. So that is a situation that shouldn't exist. So the book is designed to tell me what to do as an individual that will erode that system. Erode it. All right? You can't get out of the system. You have to actually destroy that system. There's no place to go. There's nowhere to run. There's no place to hide. Nowhere in the known universe. If you're a person of color, you can't hide from the white supremacists. There's no place you can go where you can do that. So you have to erode the system. You have to tear down the prison walls and then make the prison into a place that it should have been in the first place. And that is a place of truth, justice, correctness, and peace. That's what the whole universe is supposed to be. But the white supremacists, some people came along, not all white people, but a substantial number of white people invented a thing called racism. And it has caused a plague all over the entire planet.
Yes.
Called white supremacy. So the book is designed to replace that system. No point in replacing the system if you're not going to replace it with something better. Now, that something better wouldn't be anything as shallow as black supremacy. You'll just be getting the same old system in blackface. We don't want no more of that. We want a system of justice and correctness and peace, which is something that has never been in recorded history on this planet. So we should become, our goal should become universal man and universal woman. And the book is designed to help each individual, day by day, go through the process of becoming that.
Okay.
That's why I go to producejustice.com.
Okay. Now, I got a question to ask you about that, because if I don't, it'll bring about confusion, and that's the one thing we don't want. In this last statement that you made, that you didn't want it to us to become black supremacy. Now, I got to ask this. Is there such a thing as black supremacy?
No.
Okay.
It doesn't exist anywhere.
Thank you.
Anybody charged, any black person who's charged, formally or informally, with a thing called black supremacy, the code says you immediately ask them, supreme over what? I'm black. I'm supreme over what? All right? You say you call me a black supremacist? All right, show me the evidence. I'll listen to you. But supreme over what? I don't even, I don't tell anybody what to do. Everybody tells me what to do that's white. I say there is such a thing as white supremacy. All right? And if a black person tells me what to do, that black person can't tell me what to do without a white person standing behind them, backing them up. That's white supremacy. So you can't have white supremacy and black supremacy in the same universe at the same time.
So let's be clear. There's no such thing as black supremacy.
None.
Okay.
Nowhere on planet Earth. Now, somewhere out there in outer space, there might be. There might be a racist system called black supremacy, but I haven't heard of it.
No,
Not even out there where they have the black holes.
I just wanted to be clear because people listen to the program and then they will say, well, Neely Fuller said something about black supremacy. So that's why I had you give that explanation that there is
you better believe there's no such thing as black supremacy anywhere in the known universe. Not only on this planet, but on any other planet anybody ever heard of. Wherever you have black people, you have white supremacy. How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
You don't have anything else.
Okay, and I would be...
Wherever you have, I don't care where it is, wherever you have black people, the white supremacists are telling those black people what to do.
What to do.
Either directly or indirectly.
Okay.
That includes all the little villages where black people have never even seen a white person. The white supremacists control their business too.
Yes.
Because they control the planet.
Yes. On a totally unrelated subject and off topic, I was asked to mention, I know you don't particularly care for this, but I will say this, that a lot of people who regularly write into this show or text me into this show, they know how you feel about birthdays, Earth Day, or Born Day, but they wanted to acknowledge your day of birth. They wanted to acknowledge it. They try to be careful in not saying happy birthday, but a lot of people think fondly of you, and I just said that I would casually mention that and not go too deep. But I just wanted you to know, or they wanted you to know, that they care about your particular born day. So now, so what, I don't know what your response would be to that, but you have an awful lot of followers.
My response is, the code calls for me to accept any appreciation and whatnot, anything that anybody says that with the spirit of kindness and all like that. But the facts are, and I'd like for people to think about this, there is no such thing as a birthday coming every year, every 365 days. You have one birthday. That's the day you're born. And then you have breath days. The day you're born, you take a breath. You inhale. And then you inhale and exhale and inhale and exhale. And these are breath days. You do that every day that you are walking around on this planet. On other planets, maybe there's no such thing as breath. But on this planet, you have a thing called breath. So you have breath days. You don't have a birthday, but one time. That's the day you're born. And then you have breath days. And then, after that, after your breath days, you have what? You have a death day. That's the day you die, which means you stop breathing. Okay? You inhale, then you exhale, and you don't inhale again. All right? That's a death day. So the only thing you got coming up now, if you're breathing now, is a death day. You're not going to have a birthday. You're not born every year. You're not going back into the womb every year and then come out of the womb and have people standing around you in the hospital. That doesn't happen every year. See, that's what the white supremacists have put out there. Mm-hmm. I mean, for whatever reason they did it. I mean, and it caught on, And just like everything that, all of the so-called holidays or holy days or days we're supposed to celebrate, I mean, the code says black people have nothing to celebrate. And one of the ugliest thing that a black person can do is to celebrate anything. Why? We haven't done anything to celebrate. You celebrate after all the problems are solved. So that means celebration time is going to be a long ways off. Or not, if not a long ways, it shouldn't be a long ways, but at least it's going to take a lot of work.
But as long as you're alive, you can acknowledge birthdays.
Well, as long as we got these problems, we're not supposed to be celebrating anything. That's an insult to the Creator. Solve the problems. And then look around and breathe a sigh of relief. That's your celebration.
Yes.
Now, no breaking out the whiskey and all that stuff. That's not the way to celebrate ever. No. Just breathe a sigh of relief and say, well, we finally solved all of the problems that we were given. All right? So we'll breathe a sigh of relief. And that sigh of relief, that breath that we take in the form of a sigh, that's our celebration. Nothing else. No barbecue, none of that. You don't have to buy nothing. All right? Breathe a sigh of relief and say, well, we finally got that work done.
Yeah, it didn't cost you nothing to breathe, does it?
Yeah, just breathe a sigh of relief. Go and take some rest.
Yes. Ain't that it? That's very good. There was a couple of people that did say breath day, but you gave a good definition of that.
That's what it is.
Yes.
I mean, that's the truth. See, everything in codification is supposed to be about the truth.
Yes.
We're not born every year. We don't go back into our mother's wombs every year. We don't do that. We know that. So why do we act like we don't know it? Just because somebody made something called a calendar, I mean, who made the first calendar in the first place? Who knows?
Yes.
And there's been a bunch of calendars that have been made. There's something called the Chinese New Year. It's not the same as, New Year that we call New Year's. We say January the 1st. The Chinese say that's not the New Year. So they got a New Year of their own. So what is a year? Okay?
Good question.
Yeah, somebody said 365 days, that makes a year. Somebody else might say, oh, no, a year is 1,000 days. What are you talking about? What calendar are you looking at?
Yeah, the Mayans had a calendar. Ooh, yes.
All right, so, this is all made up stuff. Made up by whom? Well, regardless of who made it up, if the white supremacists get a hold of it, they're going to make it so it makes them stronger and makes their victims weaker.
Yes.
Just making it what it is, because that's what they always got in mind. Hey, come out and spend some money. Why? Because it's, St. Switham's Day.
Yeah.
Who is St. Switham?
Yeah.
We don't know. It is something I made up last night.
Right. That's what I like about the
All
complicit.
you black people come in my store and buy something because it's St. Switham.
Yes, money.
If you ask who is St. Switham, and they tell the truth, they'll say, oh, St. Switham is somebody I made up at 5 o'clock this morning before I opened my store.
Oh, man.
This is St. Switham's Day.
Okay.
Come in here and buy these shoes and hats.
All righty. We're going to have to leave it there, but I think what we're going to do is do this next week to do it justice, the emasculation and feminization of the black male. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Fuller. TalkTameAtRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Thanks for listening. Thank you for the pleasure of your time, and we will see you next week. Thank you, Mr. Fuller.
Thank you for having me, inviting me.
Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTameAtRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk shows. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTimitRadio.com.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTimitRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse.
Welcome to the second hour of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is Radio, the way it should be heard. Now, our topic today is why. Why? Why what? Why? In answering the questions, one must always ask why, as Mr. Fuller has stated. And this is what this program is about. Now, to get in contact with the show, do this. You can call in, as we have a caller now, at 1-877-932-9766. You can also go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage, and you'll see a big sign that says Listen Live. Yeah, do that, and this program will come up. It also airs again at 10 p.m. Tonight. You'll also see a donate button there, which we will get into a little bit later. You can do that. You can also go to the YouTube channel to watch us and hear us. Just type in the word YouTube, and then you'll see where a space for us to put in Talktainment. Type that in, scroll down to where it says where you can put in radio, and then another scroll, and then you'll see type in Talktainment number 2, and you're there. You can hit the like and share button, and you can see us of the graphics that come up and such forth. And also you can do this. Go to Facebook.com/Talktainment. You can do that. We try to make it convenient for you to get this program. The second hour, this is the donate hour, and we need your donations, because if they don't pick up, then there will be no more second hour. We'll get the first hour in. That's on Talktainment. But it's the second hour. So you really need to pick that up. If you call in and you're able to, that call is free for you. We pay for that. But something has to be done so we can offset the expense of putting this program together. So this is not for pay for me or Mr. Fuller. No. It's for the continuation of the second hour. Okay, with that being said, why is what we're talking about, and let's go to the phone lines. Okay, caller, you are now on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Good morning, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. My name is Joe from Harlem, Joe Carter.
Yeah, Joe.
I don't have a question. I have a statement. As far as China is concerned, people fail to remember that Russia is China's big brother, and every so-called third world country has a big brother, and usually that big brother is usually white. So it classifies white, rather. So that's something that we need to remember and not to forget. So that's really all I have to say.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Joe. There's been a lot of talk about that, China. And like I said, I read an article last night or this morning about China donating or giving, no, not donating, but giving $60 billion to Africa. Didn't say what country, but Africa. I don't know what that means, but, I could use $1 billion myself, but nobody has offered to give me that. But I don't know why. There's something, as my friend Fred used to say, that there's something funky in Denmark. Something is just not right about that. And one of our callers in the first hour called in and addressed that situation about, what they've done, and especially in Zambia, what the Chinese did. So this is not the first. Okay, Mr. Fuller, going to the Gmails. Let's do this. This brother from Canada wrote this. Mr. Fuller, he says, I think I know what the answer is going to be, but I'm going to read his question. He said, what did Dr. Martin Luther King mean when he says, I'm paraphrasing when he said, if the Negro is to be free, he must move down into his inner resources of his own soul and sign with a pen in ink of his own self-asserted manhood his emancipation and proclamation. My VGQ is, why must I suffer so?
My answer is I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the code is I don't speak for someone else. Dr. King spoke very eloquently for himself. So everybody who studies Dr. King should interpret on their own what he meant by whatever he said. And that's the best way to go with that. What happens when a lot of people are dead is that people start interpreting on their own what the person who was here said when they were here, and which is what they should do as individuals. But asking someone else to interpret somebody else's work, that is something that the code does not advocate. So I can't go along with being a party to that, making any comments about what Dr. King meant. He meant whatever he said, and whatever interpretation he put on it, that's the interpretation that I will say is the valid interpretation. And if it was some confusion there, well, then you have just that, confusion.
Yes.
But I won't touch it.
Yeah. Dr.
I will not speak for anybody who's not Malcolm X, Dr. King, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Marcus Garvey, anybody who has gone before who's not here.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Francis Wilson. No,
yes, sir.
I will not speak for any of these people. That's why I'm saying everybody should try to speak as much as they can for themselves while they're here and clear up any misunderstanding. All right?
All righty.
Even when I come on this program, the one thing I grade myself on is not whether somebody believes what I'm saying or not. I grade myself on whether I'm clear and whether I'm focused.
Yes, sir.
Because one thing I do not want to do is add to the confusion.
Okay. We've been talking about movies, your list of movies, and certainly there are others movies out there that people know about that are good movies where you can glean something of that. My brother in what is called French, I think it was French Guiana, Brother Mirtho, if I am pronouncing it properly, indicated that there's a movie called Miss Sloan. And I did, Brother Mirtho, and since you are listening because you just sent me an email over Gmail, I did see parts of that movie. It's 2 hours and 12 minutes, and, I can glean some things off of that. But he also sent this, Mr. Fuller, a book called Bury My Heart.
In Wounded Knee?
I'm not sure what it is because it cut off right there.
It is by D. Brown?
I'm getting an affirmative. Yeah, I'm getting an affirmative from the people here and also you. Yeah, he mentioned that.
Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee by D. Brown. That's D-E-E Brown.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's the title of the book.
Okay.
It came out some years ago.
Okay.
I had a copy of it, and I misplaced it. I never got around to reading it, but I understand that it is a book.
Yes,
that a lot of people can get a lot out of.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Let's do this. 1-877-932-9766 is the number that you can call to get in contact with the show. Don't forget, because I'm going to push this hard this hour, donations. For the second hour, we really need those donations. You might get tired of hearing it, but we want to keep the program going. The second hour, we want to keep it going. So make sure you donate. 1-877-932-9766. Okay, here's a question. Mr. Fuller, my question to you is this. Why are almost all movies on your must-see movie list outside The Shawshank Redemption 40, 50 years old or older? Are there any films with messages for us, according to you, that came out in the past few years, even the past 20 years? I asked because I know there are several. I heard you mention how you have a long list of movies that people have suggested you see, such as The Matrix, Get Out, Black Panther. Also, I think one movie people should see, if they haven't already, it's a classic called The Marathon Man. What I took away from that film is how all roads, even when you think you are escaping white supremacy, how all roads lead back to the white supremacist. Mr. Fuller, I will wait for your response. Thank you.
Oh, there will be many movies. There are many movies being made right now that probably I need to see. I'll never get around to seeing them. And in the last few years, I haven't gotten around to seeing a whole ocean of movies that have been made that probably have very, 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 and I've heard that they have very, very strong messages.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that you can learn a lot from. But the list of movies that I have are mostly about white people. I mean, if you look at them, they are old movies. I mean, and most of the movies, you don't see a black person even in the background, okay, in any scene, anywhere, okay? But I say that I've always said that you study, the white supremacists and how they go about doing things more than you do black people, because there's more to learn, okay? But if there are movies that show interactions between black and white, and those are movies that I definitely would say that any movie that would show interactions between white and non-white is very important to see. If the movie has any validity at all,
yes,
if
sir.
it has any truth in it. And if it doesn't have truth in it, you'll see that too. You'll learn that. I mean, you'll learn when a movie is steering people in the incorrect direction. And you should look for that in all movies, really.
Okay.
Whether or not you are being steered by looking at that movie in an incorrect direction. And most movies, a lot of movies that are recommended and highly touted,
yes,
that include black people, usually, in many cases, I won't say in all or even in most, but in some cases, some of these movies look like they're designed to help black people to think about things that are constructive value, when there's no constructive value in them at all.
Yes. Okay. All righty. Let's do this. Let me see. Okay, yeah, let's do this. I'm going to take this call, and then we'll do what we have to do. Okay, caller, now listen. You are on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, Mr. Fuller, greetings. Two questions, sir. One, if you had your druthers, how would you organize this particular radio program that you're on today? What would you change about the flow of this program? And, is there something more you'd like to see, something less you'd like to see? How would you organize this particular program?
I don't know, because I am not an organizer. I just make suggestions about what I think would be an improvement, and I don't know anything about broadcasting, anything like that. All the technicalities involved, and there's a lot of it involved, I understand. Lots of things that have to be watched, mostly time and money. I understand that any kind of broadcasting, time is a huge factor, money is a huge factor. So I'm not competent enough to speak intelligently on something that would be an improvement. So, but the code says that anybody who has a suggestion about something that would be an improvement, and taking into consideration the time factor and the money factor, well, that's a part of the code. You make suggestions. See, because it's all about what? That one word that I say it's one word, should be one word, constructive problem solving. That should be one word that I started off the first hour saying, that it should be in every black person's mind, every non-white person's mind on the planet, and every white person's mind. I say that eventually, if they get off of this white supremacy hobby horse, I mean, and think about constructive problem solving for a change. See, they solve a lot of problems, but they make so many other problems, as a result.
Yes.
And so a part of the code is solve problems without making any. And so that would include your suggestions. See, broadcasting. How would we solve if there are some problems with the way the program is being conducted? What would be an improvement, and would there be any problems that would be made as a result of the so-called improvement?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
But you don't want to solve a problem by making other problems.
That's exactly right. Let me interject just before you ask your second question. If to the caller or in listeners, if you knew all that was involved in radio, in the production of the program, let alone TV, most of you would not do it. You just would not do it because it is complicated. Now, sometimes we make it seem simple, but it really isn't. You just have to, either you have it or you don't. At the same time, we're still learning because we make mistakes, i.e., Mr. Fuller and I do not rehearse this show. We don't. We just let it flow as it is, mistakes and all, because we are still learning. So you have to keep that in mind. Go ahead, ma'am, with your second question.
The second one, I will have to get back with you. I'm going to think about the responses to my first.
Okay. All right. Thank you for calling so much. Yeah, a lot of people think, and that they can just do this. It really isn't. And I've had friends and asked them to call in, and they are afraid to call in. And I ask them why. I said, because it's radio. I might say the wrong thing. Well, so what? I say the wrong thing and make countless mistakes all the time, and I'm always trying to improve. But I still do it because I love radio and I love to do it. And I feel that what Mr. Fuller has allowed me to be a part of in getting the word out, mistakes and all, we try to do it. Anyway, that's what we do. Listen, TalkTameRadio.com is a 24/7, no-charge, worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's one that I'm going to share with you, and I had the opportunity last Thursday as we had a radiothon to speak with some of the programs hosts that came on, show hosts that came on. And one of the shows is Your Time to Travel. And I got to talk, well, Mr. Tyus wasn't there, but his co-host was there. And she explained just how important that show is with news about traveling. News about traveling to different places, the updates, all the things that are involved in that program, Your Time to Travel. Now, listen, if you are going to travel somewhere, you might want to get in contact with them and get the latest information. Now, that show is exclusive to TalkTameRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby, and I am the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., and our subject today is why. You've heard Mr. Fuller ask it. One should always ask why. Why should you ask why? Ask Mr. Fuller that. Right now, we are going to take a call. Go ahead, caller. You were able to get in. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
How you doing, Neely Fuller? It's a great honor to talk to you. Me and my mom and my brother, actually, we discovered you from YouTube, just looking up positive programs and stuff like that, and you've been a big help. I just want to start off by saying that.
Thank you.
No problem. One of my questions is, you say a lot of times that there's white people and non-white people, and I wanted to ask you this. From what I've noticed from my studies, and just from day-to-day worldly viewings and interaction, the other so-called races are ahead of black people, and they don't treat black people too well. For example, races like the Asians, Arabs, on and on in our own communities and stuff like that. It's not good a lot of times. I don't want to say all of them, but I've seen a lot of bad interactions between black, Arab, Asian, Indian, whatever. So I'm just a little bit confused if you can clarify about non-white and white and where those other races factor into that.
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
In the system of white supremacy, that's to be expected. I can't say that enough. All non-white people go at each other. I mean, even the groups that you're naming, they go at each other. I mean, they do very destructive things to each other. It's all about destruction. If you're non-white, you're supposed to be about destruction. And you see anybody with color in their skin, that's something that you try to destroy. Among black people ourselves, we know that better than anybody. We destroy each other and look forward to it. Roam the streets looking forward to it. I mean, that's on our agenda. That is the top of that thing. That's the big thing that we think about. How can I do a job on this other black guy that's coming down the street facing me right now? How can I destroy him or her or do something harmful or say something harmful? I got all kind of derogatory names. That's black people right among ourselves. So we shouldn't even expect anybody to think anything about us that is of constructive value. If some so-called Asian person don't speak to us and all like that, speak to us for what? What are they going to get out of it? Probably get chased down the street if we join up with them and they join up with us. They see that they'll get a straight dose of what we give each other. Let's be honest about that. How do we treat each other? Not to say anything about how other people treat us. And it's all because of whom? Just like today's headlines. It's the white supremacists. Who's in today's headlines right now? And I'm going to put this in here because ain't nobody mentioned it.
Go ahead.
And that is Mr. Bill Cosby. All right? Now, both black people and white people are saying, And really, in a way of speaking on the surface, you can say that. But what you should look at is the whole background, the whole history of black people within the context of the system of white supremacy. And when you think of Mr. Bill Cosby, you say, hey, because that's what I say, this is just a result of the system of white supremacy. I expect that. I've been expecting it for years, and not only where he's concerned, every other black person out here, okay, when truth is being told, okay, all right, could very easily be in handcuffs. Why? I know who taught us.
Yes.
That we know.
Yes.
Okay? I know where we got all of that. Okay? And the white supremacists do too, even though they are sitting up piously in judgment, talking about somebody being deceptive, somebody committing sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they say that Mr. Cosby hid his, and that might be true. I'm not saying he didn't. But what about the people that they build statues to and brag on for sexual assault?
Absolutely.
Like Mr. Thomas Jefferson. All right? Sally Hemings. Sexual assault. Right in your face.
In your face.
And bragging about it. Okay? Captain John Smith and Mr. Roth. I think his first name is I don't know whether it's Tom Roth or John Roth.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I get it mixed up. But Captain John Smith. Okay? And who? Pocahontas.
What?
A teenager. Okay? They brag about sexual assault. They don't say that you're accusing me of sexual assault. They brag about it and put it in the history books. Say that's one of the greatest women, Indian women, that ever lived. Why? Because we seduced her. And then we seduced her whole tribe. All right? And got her father to let Captain John Smith off the hook, in which he proceeded after that to take over everything that belonged to the Indians, including taking Pocahontas to the cleaners, and then laughing after her death. All right? These are our teachers. So when you talk about Mr. Bill Cosby, keep that in mind. See, the white supremacists don't make moves unless it's going to give strength to the system of white supremacy, and that's what's happening now. Black people walking down with their heads hung low in shame about Mr. Cosby. But think about his entire background. If he's guilty, where he gets these kind of ideas of doing, deceptive sexual assaults. Jeffrey Dahmer is the poster boy, really, for the world of the entire system of white supremacy.
But that wasn't mentioned, was it?
All they got to do, just read the history of Mr. Jeffrey Dahmer, all right? And you're looking at the portrait of what white supremacy means in its true essence. It means being deceptive, seductive, and then turning people into something that they didn't start out to be, or helping them to be what they started out to be when they wasn't in a dilemma about what they were or weren't. All right? The white supremacists have done this all over the world. And then, after that, kill them.
Yes.
After using them. Well, at least you can say to Mr. Cosby, at least so far, he might have been going into that too. Truth be told, he didn't kill anybody, but the white supremacists rape and then kill.
Yes.
Rape and then kill. Rape and then kill. Rape and then kill. Whole continents of people. Rape, deceive, kill.
King Leopold.
And then brag about it in their history books.
Yes.
And force black people, non-white people, to read those history books and repeat the same acts among themselves. And then stand back and laugh at us or shake their heads saying,
Yes.
This is shameful. Just look at them.
Yes.
Just look at them. Well, we are your children, white supremacists. We are your illegitimate children, and that's the way you raised us.
Mr. Fuller, you're absolutely correct, because it wasn't until maybe 10 years ago that I found out about King Leopold II and what they did in the Congo. Yes. Don't nobody know about that.
A story that will never be told.
Never be told. But I heard...
it's just too much to tell.
Yeah.
There's no way they could have recorded it all.
Yes. But I did hear about the Holocaust, but I never heard about King Leopold II and the horrific things that they did in the Congo. I guess they call it the Belgian Congo. And I wondered, why wasn't we told about that in the history books? But then I had to understand that they are the ones that wrote the narrative.
Oh, sure. They never tell it all.
Never.
I don't care what history book you read about the history of white supremacy.
Right.
They tell maybe about 1/10 of a percent.
Maybe.
Of what really happened.
Yeah. All righty. Talk to him at radio.com. Are actually reading to see if they're actually reading the book and Word Guide. My suspicion, Mr. Fuller, is that they are not. Once enough data on that is obtained, then perhaps you can ask if they are comprehending what they have read. Best regards, less confused. Mr. Fuller, you care to comment on that?
Well, I'll just say that comes under BGQ. See, I can't tell the listeners what to do, except just make suggestions. I make suggestions about buying the code book and reading it by advertising the code book. But I can't tell people that before they ask a question that they must do that.
Yes.
It would be nice if they did. That would expedite. Probably they wouldn't even have to ask the question, because a lot of the questions are answered in the book.
Yes.
All right. But people, sometimes something is going on in the news or something like that, and they tune into this program, and they hear somebody talking about racism, and so it's just my job and my duty to answer whatever questions according to what I have written, in the way that I have written the answers to the questions, according to the code. Now, it might be a little more confusing that way and takes up a little more time, but at least the person did call and showing an interest in doing what? Solving problems. Here again, I want to emphasize all of this is about problem solving.
Yes, sir.
We can't lose sight on that. Keeping that in mind more than anything. How best to go about solving a problem of some kind, and the basic problem being the problem of racism. But all of the problems that come from that, anything that helps, anything, any suggestion that anybody makes that helps to solve even the smallest of problems, or the biggest of problems, or the problems inside of problems, inside of problems, inside of other problems, then that's what I'm trying to do with the book and my part of this program. Problem solving, that's all it's about, in the most constructive manner, that is.
Yes, sir. Okay. Here's a question. It says this. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the name, not even phonetically, but let's do this. Mr. Fuller, everybody has made some critical mistakes with their time and energy that produced a result that had a disproportionately non-constructive effect on their livelihood. What is an example of a mistake you've made in your lifetime, and how did you ultimately correct that?
Just about. Here's the way I answer that in a codified manner. I haven't solved the problem of racism. And everything that I have done that didn't help to solve the problem of racism has been a mistake in every area of activity. My economics, the 9 areas, everything that I've done in the field of education, my schooling and all like that, everything I've ever learned that didn't contribute to replacing the system of racism with the system of justice is a mistake by definition. See, mistakes are made within a context. Mm-hmm. That's the only context I use. So, to the extent that I haven't solved the problem of racism, my entire existence has been a mistake. I'm going to say that again. To the extent that Neely Fuller Jr. has not solved the problem of racism, the biggest problem in history, Neely Fuller has been a failure in every move that he has ever made in economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war has been, up to this point, a horrendous mistake. And that's the way I'm putting it. My entire existence has been a mistake up to this point.
So how do you correct it?
I haven't solved the race problem, and that's what I was put here for.
Okay.
That's the way I look at it.
All right.
I haven't solved the race problem, and that's what I was put here for. I wasn't put here for any other reason.
Okay.
I call myself working on it, but I'm not smart enough to have done it.
All right.
And until I get smart enough to do it, I'm a failure, period. Okay. That's the only way to look at it, according to what? Counter-racist science, that's what.
All righty. Before we talk about your book, let's take this phone call. Caller, you are now on with Mr. Fuller. You need to cut your radio down because we're hearing some background noise so that you can ask your question. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobbitt. I want to first, VTQ, thank y'all for what y'all do. Just want to let y'all know that We do appreciate the great effort that you and Mr. Fuller put in week to week, and the whole step that we don't see behind the scenes. We know it takes money to do what y'all do, and you have to get rid of the second hour. We're glad to have y'all on for 1 hour because we need to keep the information that y'all got spread to the world going. I want to say that DGQ first and pat y'all. Make sure y'all pat y'all selves. I've been watching this show for 3 years. I've noticed vast improvement in the way that the show is conducted from Mr. Fuller, the way that he deals with people, from you, from the show. I've noticed vast improvement, and I've noticed improvements in myself from listening to the show.
Thank you, brother.
The show is an improvement.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And so my question is, I want to get Mr. Fuller to talk to us about, I've been getting a lot of criticism lately about using the open air method of battling racism and white supremacy. And, you know, us as black people, we're always taught that we should come together to get anything accomplished. We have to, all of us, be in one place, and we know why we think that way. So I want to ask Mr. Fuller, just for as briefly as he can, I know time is can you please go over the open air method of battling white supremacy and racism and compared to the four-wall method, and why he endorses that method over the four-wall method? Okay. Mr. Fuller?
That's in the text. That's in the. I don't have the page number. I got the book right here before me, but
I was trying to find the page number as well. That's also an improvement to suggest maybe an index can be included, because I've been looking for it all morning. I've read the book.
No, it's no index. It's a broad table of context, content in the front of the book, but it's probably there. I'm sure that I put it there because it's in the original, and so. But you know, I've been writing so much and talking so much down through the years, so. And plus, I'm getting up in age where I don't even remember where I put stuff in my book.
Yes, sir.
All right. So that's just a part of my faults. But in it, a person can just read it, and if they have it, and see. But basically, the open air method is the compensatory, the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept. What that means by open air is just what we are doing right now. Just everybody just give their opinion on how to solve the race problem as individuals. You know, saying the things that we should do, the things we shouldn't do. That's all it is. Things we should do, things we shouldn't do. That's all anything is, and getting things done in a constructive manner. And doing it, what I call by open air, nobody telling you what to say and do. You're not, but the four-wall system is you have a leader that tells you what to say and do. Neely Fuller Jr., even with his book and his programs and all like that, is nobody's leader. I always tell people, don't set Neely Fuller up as somebody's leader. I couldn't lead a horse to water. I can't even lead myself. I'm not qualified to be anybody's leader. Why? I'm a prisoner of war. You don't have a prisoner of war that can lead anybody. I'm captured, okay? And I recognize that. All of the leaders of black people, according to what I have written, are white supremacists. Why? That's what white supremacy means. Leadership. They tell me what to do. How can I be somebody's leader when they are telling me what to do? All right? As a prisoner of war. And I'm going along with what they tell me in order to survive in their prison. I'm in their prison. I was born in their prison. So I'm just writing. Those are therefore the organizational, which is called the four-wall system. In other words, I call it, it's a cliche term meaning you got four walls and you try to cram as many black people in those four walls as you possibly can. Standing room only. All right?
Yes.
I've been in that kind of setting. And it gives you the sense of power when there's really no power there at all. That's just a whole bunch of black people that's herded in four walls. All right? Yeah. But we get the illusion of power.
Yeah, the illusion of power. Wow.
Yes. See, that was true even on the slave ships. I mean, a lot of the slaves on the ship said, oh, I look around, I see nothing but black people. We are all together. I mean, you know, we're organized.
On a slave.
No, you're not. You've been herded. It's the difference between being herded and being organized.
Yes.
Okay? No, the compensatory concept, the open air concept is you organize the individual person. And the individual person organizes him or herself around what? Around a code.
A code.
A code of what works rather than a code that does not work.
Yes, sir.
Doing and saying things that work. That's all a code is. Mm-hmm. And if you get each individual, this is the open air thing, get each individual to do and say all of the things that have a constructive effect, then if you have every individual following that same code and getting that same constructive effect, now you have your world organization. Not a little black organization over here on the other side of the tracks in this town, another little fledgling organization up here in downtown or over on this side of town. And black people are always talking about, you know, getting together. That's one of our favorite terms. Black people need to get together. And we think that black people standing in the middle of a park somewhere, I mean, shoulder to shoulder, I mean, with smiles on our faces or frowns on our faces, we think that that is power.
Wow.
That is nothing but a bunch of black people grouped together thinking that they have power.
But let me do this. In the shack, by the track with the room in the back. Caller, before Mr. Fuller speaks about his book, what is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Yes, sir, Mr. Fuller. During the Afghan war, you would have Afghanistan war. You would have the United States would accidentally drop a bomb on a mosque where you have Muslims inside a mosque praying to Allah. So here's the question: why is it that Allah never does anything about the white supremacists, what they do as far as dropping bombs? And then you had white supremacists walk into a Christian church and shoot 9 Christians. So the question altogether is why is it that Allah nor Jesus can do anything about what the white supremacists do as far as killing them?
Mr. Fuller?
Why is it that who does this?
Why is it that Allah, which is the God of the Muslims, or Jesus, the God of black people, their gods can never seem to do anything to stop the white supremacists from doing whatever they want to do?
Well, you have to ask people who are Christians and people who are Muslims why that is, because I am not permitted to say anything that sounds like I'm criticizing Christians or Muslims or Jews or Buddhists or Confucianists or Hindus or any of the people, the many hundreds, and some people say thousands, of tribal religions on the planet, and I'm only, by the code, authorized, you might say, and qualified, you might say, if it sounds like anything that's a criticism of a religion, I'm only qualified and are authorized to criticize one religion, and that's the religion of white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
White supremacy is the religion. So now, why the other religions have failed to deal with white supremacy in a way that white supremacy no longer exists, you'll have to ask the people who are members of that religion why this failure. Why? That's a valid question, just like all questions.
Yeah, that's valid.
But I'm not qualified to answer that.
Mm-hmm.
I can only say my religion, which is a compensatory religion that's described in the textbook, eclectic pluralism, is designed to try to oppose white supremacy, but so far it hasn't guaranteed it.
Okay.
So first you can ask me, Fuller, how come eclectic pluralism, that religion that you have, how come it hasn't dealt with white supremacy? Well, I'm trying to deal with it, but so far my religion has failed. It's a failing religion.
Uh-huh.
As long as white supremacy is here, My religion has failed to deal with it because white supremacy is the strongest religion that the world has ever seen. There's never been a religion as strong as the system of white supremacy.
All righty.
Recorded history.
Who taught you how to hate yourself? Let Malcolm ask the question. Mr. Fuller, this is the 45-minute mark, but obviously we have gone past that. But this is the time that we have allotted for you to speak about your book. So go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
Okay, well, I was speaking on it just now, and you can go and get the book by going to producejustice.com. But what I was talking about just now, four-wallism and open-airism, and all about religion, and all about the religion of white supremacy. That's what the book is about. I mean, under the seventh area of activity, religion, I talk extensively about the religion of white supremacy being the strongest religion that's proven that their practitioners practice it to the hilt. Everything they say they believe in, that's what you see them doing. And I've seen other people of every other religion cut corners on their religion because they have been forced to.
Yes.
They've been forced to take parts of their religion and put it aside, all right, on account of there's so much pressure on them not to be a Buddhist, not to be a Muslim, not to be a Jew,
yes, sir,
not to be a Christian, all right? So, but the white supremacists, they're the only people who say, hey, you pick out any part of our religion that makes us strong, because our religion is about being strong and powerful and kicking non-white people around. Pick out a part of our religion where we don't do that, and you can't find no parts. I mean, they are the only people that I know of who practice their religion all the way. They don't cut corners on nothing.
Nothing.
They don't cut nobody no slack. So they're the most powerful religion that I have ever seen or heard about, all right? And certainly witnessed and experienced, because they definitely trump my religion and seem to trump every religion that I've seen, been introduced to. It seems like people kind of wimp out when it comes to dealing with the religion of white supremacy. I mean, I've been around a lot of people. I was raised up in the Baptist church, and, I've seen people talk about doing good and all like that, but I noticed everybody in my church was black, okay? And then later on, many years later, under the same banner of the same cross and the same religion and the same Messiah, I'm looking at my newspaper, and there are people who say that somebody's a white supremacist, walks into a church and just shoots people who are worshiping. And then walk out and say, yes, I did it. So what? Okay? So I'm saying this religion of white supremacy got a lot of power to it. That's one thing I have witnessed. It's got a lot of power. People might say they don't have no power. I see people hopping out of their way and doing what they say do, even when it goes against their own religion, because the white supremacists come around and say, oh, yes, that was a part of your religion that we authorized a little while ago, but now, particularly when this comes to this thing called molestation and sexual this and changing genders and all like that, we know that your religion said that something about that's something that you don't do. Well, we're saying that's something you better do. And if you don't do it, you're going to be ostracized. You might not be able to, in a few years, to get a job, all right? Because that'll be on your questionnaire. If you don't believe in scatter sexuality, in non-genderization, in absolutely getting rid of the genders among non-white people, I mean, then you cannot work in this place. But getting back to the point, go to producejustice.com, and I say a lot about that in the textbook for victims of racism and in the word guide, which is an addition to it. Producejustice.com.
Okay. Producejustice.com. In the remaining moments, here's a email. you guys have mentioned about movies. Mr. Fuller has mentioned about the movies that we should view. How about books? For example, the book that was advertised today, Sex Code Wars. Mr. Fuller, are all these materials relevant to destroying or dismantling the system of racism?
Oh, the Sex Code Wars?
Yeah.
Now, I have glanced through that book. It's written by Mr. Kahari Inaharo.
Yes, sir.
And I say that, hey, I didn't see anything in the book that people should not read and whatnot. So I say that's a book that will probably, it's got illustrations in it too. It's got pictures in it. My book doesn't have pictures, and pictures are excellent for presenting ideas and whatnot. So I can say that that's a book that I would say that people can look at if they wish to, and maybe should. I have a copy, all right, but I haven't read it because I got so many books. I have to really, I'm embarrassed so much because I got about maybe 70 or 80 books that I've been trying to get around to reading for years. All right. And I haven't even cracked them open yet. And I got more books coming in.
Wow.
That I know that I will never get to. Why? Because like right now, I would be reading. But what am I doing? I'm on the air. I'm trying to do what little bit I can for the little breath that's left in my body. But that won't be long before I won't have that.
Okay.
I got to tell my audience right now, I'm 88 years old. And so my time ain't long.
Okay.
I'm in the countdown category.
Count it down. Well, speaking about countdown, guess what? We are at the close of this particular hour. So let me say this. Thank you for the pleasure of your time, listeners, and for yours too, Mr. Fuller. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, and radio the way it should be heard. Remember, donations, because next week might be our last show. Hopefully it's not on the 2-hour broadcast, but hopefully send in those donations. TalkTainmentRadio.com, radio the way it should be heard. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for calling in, folks.